Hi, this is Mashnu, and it's day 4 of the middle game training. And this position was reached in a game between Gabrindashvili and Teodorescu in 1971. Gabrindashvili was a Soviet female player, very strong player in the 70s, and in this game it's black to move at this moment, and the move that was played by black here was h7 to h6. It's not the best move in the position, what I would like to ask you is to pause the video and think for a minute or 5 about what a good plan would be now for white. So a good continuation for white, and I'll continue the explanation in a few seconds. Alright, so with this h7 h6 advance by black is trying two things. One is to have an escape square to h7 for the king, and the other consequence is that g5 is being controlled, so eventually knight to g5 becomes impossible. But the thing is that on the other side of the board, on the queen side, something important is happening. Black has here this double pawn, and the rook is attacking the c7 pawn. We also see that the role of this c6 pawn is to keep an eye at the square d5. Imagine that the pawn from c6 was not there. In that case, well, of course c7 would be twice attacked, but also the d5 square would be a possible place to go for this knight. See, so d5 would become, from black's point of view, a weak point, and from white's point of view we can say that d5 then is a strong square. The move that white did here is a very strong one, before to b5, forcing a weakness on d5, because whether black now takes the pawn from on b5 or advances it from c6 to c5, in both cases the d5 square becomes weak. In the game, black played c5. In case of c takes d5, then we can play either queen takes or rook takes. If rook takes, then we can see already that both pawns are becoming weak, very weak now. Rook to c6 would be a possible continuation, for example. But let's follow the game, because here black replied c5, so keeping the pawns together. But the counterpart of this move is that now d5 becomes this very weak square. So knight to d2 is played with the idea of bringing the knight to d5. Black plays queen to d8, and this is another important moment in this fragment of the game, because we could continue our own plan and play knight to c4, knight to e3, knight to d5, but always it's important to ask ourselves whether black or our opponent is trying to get some counter chances. And here the moment has come to see that black is trying to play rook to a8, and after trading rooks with the queen on the a file, having some counterplay, looking for some counterplay. So the move that white does here is a prophylactic move, it's the best move in the position, queen to a1, so preventing rook to a8. Rook to c8 was played here, and now white continues with the plan knight to c4, queen to e8, queen to a6 now. So the queen is now activated. It goes to b7, and then in combination with this knight it will be the end of the game. In fact, queen to d8 was played here, and now knight to d5, and in this position black resigned, because the c7 pawn is going to fall now, and in fact the whole position is going to collapse. After that, after c7 falls, b6 is going to fall soon, and it's impossible to hold this position. if we go a few moves back, let's say about here, and we compare the activity of the pieces, we can see that white has 2 activated pieces on the A file, and if we compare the 2 light pieces, this bishop on G7 is completely locked in here in the position of black, compared with this knight that can jump from light square to dark squares and find its best point. So this was the example for today, and the important thing here is that after h6 the idea of creating a weakness in black's position is achieved by b5, and not like in the previous examples that I showed you, that we are creating a weakness in the sense of creating weak pawns. This time it's about creating a weak square. So the knight can go there and have an active role in the attack. If we return to this position here, the best move for black would have been rook to c8. Rook to c8 was actually the best thing to do, because then the c7 pawn is being defended very well, and if b5 is played, now simply we can take on b5, because the c7 pawn is defended twice. So that means that b5 would not work here, and the position would be, well, still perhaps slight better for white, but the difference is not that big. There's more piece activity for white, and we compare the bishop and the knight. The knight is a bit stronger in this position as well. But what happened in the game after h6 was in fact a big difference. Okay, I hope you found this an instructive and interesting fragment and video, and you can leave your comments on YouTube as always. Okay, I'll see you next time, and goodbye.